everyone. How's it going? And welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast where you didn't really ask for, but hey, I'm going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where I talk about anything, everything, and anything about movies. I'm your host, Chase Lee, and guys, listen, this is episode 123, and if you're new to this show, welcome. Hopefully I didn't scare you off just quite yet, but if you are new, what I usually do is I go over some movie news, some movie trailers that came out throughout the week, and then I'll have my review of a movie coming out on the weekend that the podcast is on, and then of course box office results. And this week is the divisive Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to skip ahead to that review, got these little tabs right here at the bottom. It will label itself when it appears, and you can jump right to it. And if you're listening on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes, it just scrub around. Just go every couple minutes or so and see where I'm at. But yeah, speaking of that, if you are on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes and you want a video version, you want to watch the YouTube link in the description below. And if you're watching on YouTube, you want an audio only version, link will be in the description below. So this podcast is gonna get interesting. Let's just say that. So listen, if you were searching on the internet for some random Easter recipe and you accidentally came across this show and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully I can convince you to be one. So let's do this, guys. Let's break it down. Episode 123. So news, trailers, Batman v Superman, and box office results. How you guys doing? You guys doing pretty good? And you guys are probably just like, oh my God, you fucker. Just can you please jump to the review? Not quite. I gotta milk it, but no, you guys doing pretty good. You see some cool movies. Did you like Batman v Superman? All that stuff. Comment in that place, rub my face, and let me know. So let's start out with some movie news. All right, so now the third Divergent movie, Allegiant, came out last Friday, and it didn't do so hot. Maybe about 29 million opening weekend, and yeah, I think Lionsgate was like, you know what, that's kind of a bomb opening for the third movie. And so for the fourth one, they're going to cut their budget back. So apparently the Allegiant budget was like 120 million, and they cut back this fourth one, OxiClean detergent, to I think like 80 million or something like that. That is a lot of money. So that's just really fascinating. It makes sense business-wise. For sure. I mean, if I'm Lionsgate and I look at that and I go, well, no one gives a flying fuck about the third one, yeah, we should probably reduce the budget on the fourth one. Now, what's interesting about this release is that all of them before Allegiant, so you have Divergent, Insurgent, and Allegiant, and then, of course, OxiClean detergent, they all came out in March. This fourth one is coming out in June. So it's like, if you're going to cut your budget, why would you slam it in the summer? It makes no sense to me. So that's weird, but cutting its budget, that's interesting. Are they going to take out some set pieces? Are they going to cut a few characters? I wonder what they're going to do with that budget cut, but I think I find that pretty interesting. And if you're a fan of the Divergent series, this piece of news was for you. I got you. I will satisfy all audiences. I got you. So the next piece of news is that James Franco is doing an adaptation of The Disaster Artist, which is a book based on the making of The Room, which is the infamous Tommy Wiseau. Oh, hi, Mark. Like, it's that movie. I did not. That fucking movie. If you guys have not seen The Room, it is one of the funniest movies you'll ever see. It's unintentionally funny, but it's a classic. It's an American treasure. So James Franco is making that movie based off the book that's based off that movie. And so the news is that James Franco actually got Tommy Wiseau to be in the movie. This just makes me kind of happy, because when you watch The Room, Tommy Wiseau is the worst actor you've ever seen. He's got no charisma, he's got no personality. He's just you are tearing me apart, Lisa. That was the most dramatic he ever got in the movie, and that wasn't even dramatic. So, is already taking some water here. Yeah, him being in The Disaster Artist, that's gonna be so funny, because James Franco is playing Tommy Wiseau in the movie, and I just think him coming across the actual Tommy Wiseau, it can make for a really fun scene, and I can't wait. I actually really want to see this movie really, really bad. I think James Franco is a very talented director. I'm not going to say he's one of the greats yet because I've only seen, what was it, Child of God? Was that it? I forgot. I didn't really care for that one. And he's done a few others. But I think this might be the one where it might be kind of mainstream, maybe. I don't know if they could turn it into like, a pretty interesting comedy. I think it could definitely hit more mainstream audiences than most of his movies. So I'm looking forward to that Tommy Wiseau cameo. It should be pretty great. So the next piece of news I want to talk about is that Dylan O'Brien, he is an actor of sorts, and he was injured on the set of Maze Runner 3, and the writer said that he's going to expect to make a full recovery. So, I mean, it sucks to hear. Dylan's speedy recovery, sir. But I wanted to bring this up because, one, it's pretty big for all you Maze Runners fans because I think they're going to have to postpone the production a little bit in the post-production. So it might be a little later when it's coming out because it's supposed to, I think, come out this year in September, I believe. So they might have to push it. But that just shows me that either Dylan O'Brien, just was doing something really dangerous or it was kind of like an accident. But if it was doing something dangerous, like actors that do their own stunts, I have a lot of respect for. Is it dangerous? Hell yeah, it's dangerous. Even if you're just like doing a stunt off a step stool, you could easily fall and break your neck or break your hip or break your face. It depends on which way you fall. And, I just think actors that do their own stunts, you have to commend them because they're going full in character. They want to do it themselves. I get the legality of the situation. And maybe it was something that he was really protected on. It's just something kind of went wrong accidentally, so it wasn't really anyone's fault. But I find that kind of interesting that he probably injured himself doing his own stunt, and that's just awesome. I love seeing actors and artists and stuff just really get involved with their work and just kind of going for it, man. Just not giving two flying fucks and just pleasing your audience because that is what it's all about, folks. That's why Tom Cruise is one of the best, hanging off that damn plane in Rogue Nation. You're like, holy crap, this guy's more of a badass than me. And he's the size of a hobbit. So the next piece of news is that David Cope, whatever, he is going to write Indiana Jones 5. And you're probably thinking to yourself, who is this guy? He wrote Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the most panned one out of the franchise. And a lot of people are just like, oh, God, like, it's going to suck automatically. Not necessarily. I think what happened with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is that George Lucas jumped in and he did a lot to alter the script, alter the story, because it was his baby at the time. Disney had not bought in Lucasfilm yet, and I think George Lucas had a hand in a lot of scenes, and I think I heard there were some other writers that came on board and stuff, so David Koepp is not a bad writer. I got his IMDb credits up, and here are his credits. Death Becomes Her. That's a very, very interesting dark comedy. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember it. Excuse me. He did Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park 2. He did Panic Room. Panic Room is great. Spider-Man, Secret Window. War of the Worlds, it's a pretty fun movie. Ghost Town's really good. Angels and Demons, Premium Rush, didn't see it. Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, didn't see it. And he's doing the third Da Vinci Code series, Inferno, and then Indiana Jones 5. So he's got some good ones in there, folks. It's not, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it's like, whoa, I got to calm that shit down. No, that's not the case. He's got a lot of good credits under his name. I trust that there will be a lot more hands in the project and not just his, because that's what happened with the Star Wars prequels and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, is that George Lucas, surrounded by yes men because he's George Lucas, and everyone's like, yeah, George, you can put Indy in a fridge and let's nuke it. Yes, George, there are going to be CGI looking gophers looking dumb. Yes, George, there's going to be Shia LaBeouf hanging around and swinging on vines with monkeys. Yes, Mr. Lucas, we can have Jar Jar Binks act like a fucking idiot and be as satisfying as a pile of poo. So, I mean, it's like, I get it. It's George Lucas, it's your babies, but now that it's under Disney's, I think there's going to be better collaboration, and so we shouldn't worry at all. It's going to turn out just fine. And if it's a send-off for Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones with that version and stuff, just make it good. Farewell. Have a nice send-off, and we'll be good to go. So, and the last piece of news is that under the scrutiny of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, Warner Brothers was like, well, let's release a Wonder Woman photo so we can show people what's coming up next. Wonder Woman is the next one up in the slate. Sorry, after Suicide Squad. So Suicide Squad's this year, but in terms of the characters we see in Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman is the next one. Then it's Justice League Part 1. Now, the photo has Gal Gadot in her uniform, and she's surrounded by, I think, her mother and her aunts. I believe that's the mythology of it. I don't know. But I know they're all related. And one of the people in the picture is Robin Wright, and they're all in their Amazonian kind of warrior outfits, and they all look so badass. I will get to Wonder Woman in my review of the movie, but what I can tell you is I was surprised by her. I really enjoyed her, and I can't wait to see what she does with her movie. Are they going to focus a lot in the Amazonian islands? Are they going to focus a lot in, kind of like that World War era with her and Chris Pine a lot? Like, where are they going to focus a lot? Because it's going to be along the lines of like a Captain America, where it's going to be back in the day and stuff, and she's been, just kind of like on Earth, for centuries and stuff, and whatnot. So I don't know where I was going with that. But anyways, in the Wonder Woman movie, I know there's a lot of old World War II, it's either World War I or World War II era, I forgot. But it's during that era where it looks old school, it looks just really old-fashioned and stuff. And so I don't know how much time they're going to take place in there and how much they're going to take place on the Amazonian islands. And I'm probably screwing that up because I don't know my lore that well. But that's okay. That's what you guys are here for. Just blast me in the comments if I get anything wrong. But the photo looks really cool. I see the power there. I see the mystery. I just see the coolness. Like, everything about that photo, it looks cool. I can't wait for the Wonder Woman movie. It just kind of brings joy to my heart. And plus, seeing Robin Wright in an actual superhero movie is kind of cool because Robin Wright is fucking dope. If you guys have not seen House of Cards, what are you doing with your life? So that is it for the news, guys. So what did you think about the news? Comment in a place for my face and let me know what you thought was the most intriguing news story. I mean, it was kind of a slow news week. I had to really pick from the tree there, but let's move on to movie trailers. So there were a lot that dropped. There were 6 of them that I picked out. So, and a lot of them are teasers. So I won't spend long on them, but I just have to address them because they did spark an interest. All right. So the first one I want to talk about is the first full-length trailer for Bridget Jones's Baby. Hold on. Let me take a drink. That's some good water. Water is good. So Bridget Jones's Baby. Okay. This trailer is for the people that saw the first 2. I did not see the first 2. This trailer looks awful. It looks like it's playing off of 90s tropes and humor. It doesn't work. It looks so old school. It looks like it should have been released like 10 years ago. I don't care. I'm not a part of this franchise. Renee Zellweger, I guess, looks fine. Colin Firth, why? And the fucking dude from Grey's Anatomy. Listen, I get it. It's not my demographic. But I guess if you do like the franchise and you saw the trailer, let me know down below. But the trailer just looks awful. I just don't know why people would pay money in a theater to see it. Now, it does look like a good Lifetime movie. So just come on TV, But in terms of the trailer, Bridget Jones's Baby can suck a huge log. So, all right. So that's the first trailer. The second full-length trailer is War Dogs. This is from Warner Brothers, and it stars Miles Teller, Jonah Hill, and it's directed by Todd Phillips, who did the Hangover trilogy, Road Trip, Due Date. What else has Toddy done? That's all I can think of right now. But Todd Phillips is, I think, in my opinion, he's a very solid comedy director. He takes comedies into weird, dark areas. I love it. They're different. Because that's what Hangover 3 was. I consider that like a dark comedy. Road Trip was, a road trip comedy, obviously. The first Hangover, it was really kind of darkly comedic, like, once again. The third one was more like an action kind of crime comedy. It was really weird. And yes, the second one was a repeat, but I still enjoyed it. Due Date was interesting. It's got a lot of dark humor in it too. So he knows how to push kind of like that dark humor envelope, and it actually works, in my opinion. I think he's a very entertaining director. Now this one, Miles Teller and Jonah Hill, they sell arms to the military stuff, and they make their money and whatnot. It kind of looks like The Hangover. Like, someone put this perfectly. I was listening to a podcast the other day. It looks like The Hangover and The Wolf of Wall Street combined. It's not just because Jonah Hill is in The Wolf of Wall Street. It's kind of got like that Wolf of Wall Street vibe in terms of greed and just like getting more and more and more. But then it's also got that like that darkly comedic tone, like a Hangover. I'm gonna be honest. The trailer did not make me laugh once. I was just more fascinated by the concept of it and just kind of like the characters and how they act, because they act so outlandish. You're laughing kind of internally because you're like, oh my God, people act like that. But it wasn't like a really funny trailer. It was just kind of an intriguing trailer. And I do want to see it for sure, because I do like Miles Teller. He's one of the – I still think he's one of the best up-and-coming actors. If you have not seen Whiplash, go see Whiplash, go buy it on Blu-ray, and go rewatch it 1,000 times because you'll want to, because it's just that good. I've always liked Jonah Hill. My first exposure to him was he played the Boots guy that goes into the eBay store in 40-Year-Old Virgin. That's where I first saw him. And then he was in Knocked Up. But then the most prominent role was Superbad. And I remember watching that in high school and stuff. And he stood out to me, of course. It's not because he had a giant fro. No. But he did stick out. No, War Dogs, it looks interesting. It looks like it can have that darkly comedic tone with kind of like that greed aspect. I don't know. It just looks interesting. But I have a feeling this movie's going to get slammed when it comes out. Todd Phillips movies do not really do well, typically. I think The Hangover 1 and maybe Road Trip are his only positive movies, I believe. Not even Road Trip. I think Hangover is like the only like fresh movie that he's done. But I've always enjoyed him, and War Dogs looks interesting, even though it didn't make me laugh. So makes no sense in terms of that. But War Dogs, intriguing enough. All right, so the next trailer I want to talk about is Lights Out, and this is also from Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is having a field day with trailers this week. Why not? Because you have Batman v Superman coming out. Advertise your brand. So Lights Out is based off of this short where this person is in their house and they keep turning the lights off, and you can see like a silhouette of like a demon or like a little lady or something at the end of the hallway. Flip the light back on, they're gone. And that's kind of like the whole concept. So this stretched out to a full-length feature. The trailer looks fine. Now, James Wan, the producer of the film, he has directed Insidious, Saw, The Conjuring. The guy's one of the best horror directors that we have. And I will stand by that statement. Lights Out looks okay. Because another trailer that dropped this week was the full trailer for The Conjuring 2. I didn't review that for you guys because I already reviewed the first one when it came out a long time ago. It's more of the same, but that looks great. But to me, Lights Out, the scares look cheap, and it just doesn't feel like a James Wan movie. That might be just why he's producing it, but it looks okay. It looks like it can have a couple of good scares. It looks like it can be really creepy with like the cinematography and the lighting and just the way it's put together. But Lights Out looks fine. So I might go see if the reviews are good, but I'm looking more forward to The Conjuring 2. That is for damn sure. All right, the next show I want to talk about, I want to get this one out of the way because this one kind of came out of nowhere, and I was actually really surprised at how well I was looking forward to it. It's called Holidays, and it stars Seth Green. And think like the VHS movies are like an anthology horror series where it just has a bunch of little short horror films, and they put them together and stuff, and they have this like one tie-in throughout all of them. I love that type of filmmaking. This one is like an anthology of like the different holidays, so like Valentine's Day, Halloween, Christmas, and New Year's Eve and stuff. And it takes more of like a horror suspense thriller route, but the trailer got me. I mean, I really don't want to spoil anything. If you guys have not seen the trailer for Holidays, check it out. Like, I was actually really surprised because if you are not a fan of like the VHS movies or the ABCs of Death, like those kind of like anthology type of movies, you probably won't appreciate it. But in terms of like smaller movies that came out with trailers this week, I thought that one was the most intriguing. It looks like it'd be really creepy, really suspenseful, and it looks like it could have some really good short stories in there. So holidays, check it out if you are into some weird anthology horror. And another trailer is Deepwater Horizon. This one starts, hey, it's Marky Mark. How you doing over there? Mark Wahlberg here. I got a new movie to promote. It's a Deepwater Horizon. Did you know I was in Ted 2 last year? No one fucking did. Okay, so Deepwater Horizon, it's directed by Peter Berg, who did Lone Survivor and stuff, and he plays an oil rig guy, and it's based off of the actual events of like, the oil, one of the oil spills or whatever that we've had in history, and it looks good. It was just a teaser trailer of like his daughter jamming a straw into a can of Coke, but it was intriguing because it was a parallel to what actually was going on during Mark Wahlberg's job or whatever, and it's really playful over here, it's serious over here, so it's a really good mishmash. It looks like it could be really good drama, really good suspense, and just a really good heartfelt story that Mark Wahlberg desperately needs right now, because I mean Ted 2 is fine, but he hasn't really been in, I would say, like a good movie, because he wasn't Transformers, and a lot of people didn't like that. But Marky Mark, hey, how's it going over there? It's Mark Wahlberg. Hey, Optimus Prime, how's it going? Are you in this movie? No? Okay, moving on. All right, so the last trailer I want to talk about, I got to work on my Mark Wahlberg. I apologize. So the next and final trailer I want to talk about before I get into the review that you guys all want me to talk about, and it's a good time because the last trailer is Lego Batman. So Lego Batman, he was a good part of the Lego movie, and I was on the fence when I heard that he was going to have a standalone movie. This trailer put those thoughts to bed. Now listen, was it like an actual trailer? No, it was a teaser. Sets up the tone. It's super charming and just so funny, and it's got so much personality. It's kind of contagious because Will Arnett as Batman, he's just fun. He's so much fun to watch, and like the whole trailer is just essentially him heating up a lobster in his microwave, but it's so funny, and I'm just like, oh dear Lord, if the whole movie's like this, it's going to be like the Lego movie again, but with just Batman, and we're getting a Lego movie sequel, so that's just, it's fucking awesome. So yeah, Lego Batman, loved it. It looks like this could be a really good, just charming movie, just like the Lego movie, so I would definitely recommend that. Out of all the trailers I saw this week, it's a tie between Lego Batman and Deepwater Horizon. Even though they're only teasers, they set the mark on me and really just kind of left an impression, and I loved it. So those are all the trailers for this week, guys. What did you guys think of the trailers? Comment in the place where up on my face and let me know which one you thought was the best trailer this week. And of course, your favorite one was Bridget Jones's Baby. Okay, this is it. The part you've all been waiting for. The review of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, you can bet your ass I'm going to try to draw this out as much as possible before I even get to the actual review. Because there was a lot of drama that came up before the movie in terms of the rating score and just what people overall thought about versus the critics versus the fans. It was a whole fucking mess. The reason why it didn't scare me is because this was the same shit that I experienced 3 years ago with Man of Steel. Now, when I saw Man of Steel back in 2013, all the reviews were negative. They were just bashing on Superman like, this isn't the Christopher Reeve Superman. Full disclosure before I get into Batman v Superman. Man of Steel, in my humble opinion, and you can disagree with me, that's totally fine, Man of Steel is the best interpretation of Superman we have ever had. That's right. Didn't care for the Christopher Reeves movies. I know. It's sacrilegious to talk about that. I've never liked Superman when he's like, oh, golly gee, let me go get that fucking cat from that tree. Here you go, ma'am. Here's your cat. Dun, da, 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 da. No, I don't want that shit. I want a dark and gloomy, like, glooming Batman and Superman for that matter. But I want them to be different. I want them to not be more of a fun tone. I want them to be kind of like that brooding, like, holy shit, there's actual, like hard themes going on, and like they have, hard consequences and whatnot. I love that shit. So Man of Steel to me was a great adaptation of Superman. Was it perfect? No. Didn't really care for Lois Lane, Amy Adams that much. I didn't care for some of the dialogue, and I didn't care for some of the humor. But overall, I thought it was a really good superhero movie, and especially a good origin story for I got Batman on the mind because I'm leading up to it. A good origin for Superman and for this universe. And what I really appreciated about Man of Steel is that all the risk and all the stuff going on in that movie was on a grand scale. And it was the first movie. I watched Man of Steel recently the other day. And the fact that you have a first movie and you have so much destruction in Metropolis, and you have Superman doing, a very, neck-snapping thing towards the end of the movie where, a lot of people will disagree with it, but in my eyes, it adds more layer to his character and something he's going to have to really deal with among the people of Metropolis and stuff, and just himself in general, and what it means to be a hero, and how far will you go to save someone? Like, all those questions were asked, and all the destruction was there in the first movie. So I was like, oh shit, I cannot wait for Batman v Superman. Now, let's jump ahead a few months. Then they announced Batman v Superman movie is coming. Now, they haven't called it Dawn of Justice yet, but I was like, okay. So, because we recently heard after Man of Steel that a Man of Steel sequel was coming. So, I was excited for it. I was like, oh, cool. I love Man of Steel. Let's do this. Then they announced that Batman's going to be in it. So I was like, okay. So they're basically doing the opposite of Marvel. DC and Warner Bros. Want to put as many characters in as humanly possible and work backwards. I don't see a problem with that. If they can pull it off, I'm totally for that. Then in 2014, I believe. Yeah. Because I made this video on my YouTube. You can go see it. Ben Affleck was casted as Batman. The internet blew up. I did not. I made a video, and you could see my video. I basically said, this is a good choice. It's a good, solid choice. I think he looks like Bruce Wayne. He looks like a player. He looks like a billionaire. It looks like if you put a cowl on him, it looks like he could be that vigilante. I was all for it. Then they announced that Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and all the Justice League members were going to be in this movie. I was like, okay, I'm okay with that as long as it's not forced. Then we get some trailers. My anticipation goes up. And I'm like, holy shit, this could be the best thing Warner Brothers has ever made in the superhero genre. Even more than The Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight is one of the best superhero movies ever made. So the trailers come out, and I'm just looking forward to it. I'm so psyched. I'm so stoked. And I saw the movie this morning. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, God, that's not enough time to let it soak in and, discuss it and stuff. I believe it is, because I saw it at 9 a.m. We got out at 11:30, and then my roommate and I went to go eat lunch, and we talked about it. So I've had a few hours to kind of let it soak in and just really kind of grasp onto me and let me think about it and stuff. So what do I think of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice? Am I on the side of the critics? Or am I on the side of the fans? I don't think this movie is as bad as the critics make it out to be. I do not know what was sticking up their ass this week, but this movie is not worth a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's probably even lower at the recording of this podcast. I do not understand the full-on hatred. Now, is this a perfect movie? No. And we'll get into those flaws during this review, which is a non-spoiler, by the way. I will not spoil anything. You have nothing to worry about. I don't understand why people hate Man of Steel as much as they do. I can understand some things in this movie that they can hate, but for the most part, I thought this was a pretty solid, pretty good entry into this universe. A lot of people in my Dallas area, they absolutely hated it. I've met one person that liked it in Dallas. Everyone else loathed it. I don't get it. I seriously don't. I don't know if it's a Zack Snyder thing. I don't know if it's the interpretation of Batman and Superman. But what I can tell you is this. For all those people bitching about Man of Steel and how Superman was portrayed and he was not like the Christopher Reeves version, fucking get over it. This is not that version. This is an adaptation. When you adapt something, it does not have to be verbatim. All the actions that Superman did in Man of Steel, I still believe it kept true to the core nature of his character. Nothing was really altered, in my opinion. This movie, same way with Batman. He does some questionable things. But given the circumstances and how his character is brought up in the movie, I get it. So all these comic book purists, yeah, I get what you're talking about, but guess what? It's a movie. It's got to be adapted. Now listen, if Batman's like the Punisher and he's just mowing people down, chopping heads off and stuff, that might be a problem. I might go, you know what? That's not. He's more like Daredevil, not like Punisher. And the reason why I bring that up is because I'm watching Daredevil season 2 right now, which is amazing, by the way. Just letting you guys know. Okay. So that I had to get that off my chest. So all you people that are so beloved by the Christopher Reeves version, get over it. That was like 40 fucking years ago almost. Like in 2 more years, it will be. I think it was 78, I believe. This is a new version. It is a new vision of this universe, and I thought Man of Steel was the appropriate introduction to this universe. So let's break down Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Let's get real and break this down. Okay, so let's start with the writing and directing. I must say this first again. Zack Snyder is not a bad director. In my opinion, he's only done one bad movie, Sucker Punch. Everything else, he is one of the most true adaptation directors of comic book and graphic novels that I've ever seen. 300 is a great adaptation of that. Watchmen is a great adaptation of its source material. And for this one, they pull from The Dark Knight Returns, and they pull from, I actually have it right here, the Superman Doomsday storyline. So they do pull from a lot of stuff, and I think for the most part, it does gel well together. There are a few moments and stuff where it's kind of iffy or whatever, but I think Zack Snyder overall is a fantastic director. Gotta get that off my chest before I break this down. So let's start with the writing and the directing. Let's start with the story, and let's start with the characters and just the way it's written, the way it's constructed. Okay. The beginning of this movie, it is pretty magical. It is a very good setup to this movie. There's a lot of dreariness, and I was like, oh my God, shit's about to go down. This is fantastic. It's a great start. About 10 to 15 minutes after the beginning of this movie, like after the title credit sequence and stuff, it was a little choppy. I'm not going to lie. Just the way the story was constructed with its plots and the way it was edited together, it did seem a little jarring and messy when it would go from this to that really randomly, and then that really randomly, and then go back to the original thing for the fourth cut. So I get that issue that people are having with the reviews, but that was just like a 10, 15-minute hump for me. In terms of the characters, I think Batman and Superman are well developed. And people have to keep in mind, do you need character development? Yes, you do. Do you need like full depth character development? I don't think for this installment you do. For the amount of character that we're given in this movie, I think it's perfect. There's a little bit more in depth with Clark Kent and his confliction to be a hero or not. Then we're introduced to Batman, and we see his conflictions and what he's been doing all these years and why he feels so enraged all of a sudden. That's a nice layer. That's all we need. Wonder Woman, we even have a little bit of layering for her and stuff. And I just thought it was the appropriate amount of character depth, including Lex Luthor, by the way. But in terms of the way the story's put together and some of the plot elements, it seemed a little jarring, a little messy at first. But I totally got into it after that little hump. So that's all the negatives on the writing and stuff. The positives, I thought this was the best interpretation of Batman that we've ever had. I love the fact that this guy's been through so much hell and back that he's unhinged. You don't know what he's going to do anymore. He has seen so much shit to where he could be a little bit more brutal than a typical Batman character in the comics. That's justified, though. He's been in this game for so long. He has seen the Joker, and no telling on how many villains he's seen. He's going to be a little messed up. He just is. And I think just seeing that rage inside of him and seeing that the mission in his eyes to kill Superman is palpable, and you can see that come off on screen. It's a very good interpretation of Batman. It is brutal. It is dark. It is gritty. Loved it. In terms of the way Superman's portrayed, great. Just adding another level for Man of Steel. Wonder Woman, for the amount of time she's on, great. I did not care for Lois Lane in the first Man of Steel. I actually liked her a little bit better in this one. I thought there was a little bit for more of her to do. And I found a little bit more connection between her and Clark Kent. So I like that romance a little bit better in this one. And I liked some of the emotional moments she had with Clark and stuff. I thought that was kind of touching. Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor to me is a kind of swarmy little shit that's a little psychotic, and he's got little twitches about him. He's got he's really smart, and he just he can't focus on one thing. It's almost like he's ADHD, but what he's saying is smart, and it can seem threatening in some scenes. But at first, I thought he was a little too cartoony, a little too outlandish. But there was a point in the movie where it kind of turned for me, where I was like, okay, he's actually pretty threatening, and I can actually buy him as Lex Luthor. So overall, for the most part, I thought Lex Luthor was portrayed pretty well. Everyone else is fine. Perry White is fine. Martha Kent, Superman's mother, she has a lot more to do in this movie than Man of Steel, and I thought some of her scenes were pretty intense and whatnot. And I was like, Ma Kent getting some serious shit going on. I thought she was really well handled. So I thought for the most part, the characters were really well handled. The story was there. It was cohesive, but there are parts in the beginning where it was a little messy for me, but it found its path overall. In terms of dialogue, because I did have a problem with this in Man of Steel, there's a couple of cheesy lines where I kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, okay, I'm not going to let this affect me. But for the most part, I thought I had some really good dialogue set pieces, especially in the courthouse scene with Superman. That's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. He walks in, he has to answer to what he's done for Metropolis and all of his crimes and stuff. So I thought that was really well handled. It's like, I love the questions raised, like, do we need a Superman? Should we have one? It's really great stuff. I love that was explored. And some of the dialogue between Batman and Superman was really engaging. I was like, man, these guys are going to work so well in the future. And some of Lex Luthor's lines were some of the cheesy ones I was talking about. But like I said, once that certain point happened and kind of turned for me, where I was actually thought he was threatening, he had some really good lines and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm totally on your side now as Lex Luthor. So that's it for the writing portion. And a lot of people are probably going to be asking, what about the Justice League tie-ins? I will just tell you that they are there, and I didn't find them annoying or like they were forced. Now, they're brought up several times in the movie. That's not really a spoiler. It's called Dawn of Justice. You know they're going to bring them up at some point. They bring them up like 3 times. I kind of wish they would just brought them up at least just the once. And there's one time throughout the movie where it's like a little bit more major than the other ones. If they brought up that one time and did not bring it up again, I would have been okay with it. So maybe the other couple of portions where they brought it up, I could have taken out. But there was one pivotal one, which I thought was not forced. I thought it was natural and stuff, and it worked well with the situation and the scene. So there's that. So let's move on to the directing. Zack Snyder is a visual director. He just is. Now, Scott Menzel of We Live Film said this perfectly, and I totally am going to steal this, Scott, but I'll give you the credit. Scott Menzel said this, not me, but I totally agree with him when he said, this has got Christopher Nolan's tone with Zack Snyder's visual spectacle. I think it's a perfect way to describe the directing and the tone of this movie. I thought the tone was really consistent. It was, there were a couple of comedic moments, but then again, this movie does not rely on comedy. But for the most part, it kept that like same dreary and kind of like end of the world tone. I loved it. I love the tone he had in Man of Steel. It carries over to this one. It's just, it really is. It's dark, it's brooding, it's gritty. And I love it. I love the fact that DC is going this route and Marvel's going the other route. It differentiates between the two. It's great. Love it. But I thought his tone overall was really good. It was really solid. Like I said, just in terms of the story, at the very beginning for me, it was a little jumbled, a little messy. But once it found its footing, it was taken off at 1,000 miles an hour. I will say this. I think Zack Snyder constructed one of the most entertaining movies he's ever made. I was not bored from start to finish. I thought he overall constructed a really entertaining, engrossing movie with really brilliant and great nuggets in there that just make you want. They just make you want more. And the other thing I forgot to bring up in the story, all the nightmare sequences that you see in the trailers are fucking dope. I love those sequences. I loved them, like when Marvel did them in Age of Ultron stuff. I just love dream sequences. I don't know. Sue me. But I thought the dream sequences were really well handled, and it added like a creepy element to it, and it kind of makes me just really excited for the future of this franchise and stuff. So those nightmare scenes are pretty awesome. So I thought overall Zack Snyder delivered the tone very well. The story was kind of jumbled. In terms of the action, bar none, this is some of the best action he's ever constructed. I love the fight between Superman and Batman. I love the fight at the very end. I just love everyone's powers. It was like ripped off from a comic book and slapped on screen. I was like, thank you, Zack Snyder. At least people like you for that. But I like you overall as a director. But I thought the action sequence was really well handled. They have it mostly at night and in the dark and while it's raining, and just adds such a mood and kind of texture to the fight sequences and stuff. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I will say this before I go on to the acting in terms of the story. This movie ends pretty damn ballsy. Not going to lie, and I got to give Warner Bros. And DC major props for ending their movie in such a very ballsy manner. Got to give them props, and I really enjoyed it. I love ballsy endings. This movie went there. I'm okay with it. So let's go with the acting. Henry Cavill is always great as Superman. I always like him and stuff. He's very charismatic, very charming. Man of Steel, he did a great job. And this one, he does a great job in the fight sequences and stuff. And there's a couple more character moments between him and Lois, which I found really endearing and stuff. Love that stuff. Amy Adams is Lois Lane. I'll step off of her in the first one. I liked her in this one a lot better. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I have said for years that she was the wrong choice. She is a model. She is not an actress. But guess what? Where's my fucking shoe? Because I'm going to put it in my mouth. She was pretty good. And I do want to see her solo movie. But my roommate brought up a good point. And I totally agree with him. She was really good in this ensemble type of movie. But can she carry her own film? Solo. We'll see. But in terms of being part of an ensemble, I thought she was really great. She was very mysterious and stuff, and it just makes me want to explore her character more. She gave me a taste in the movie. I thought she was pretty good. And she kicked ass in the action sequences. Faux show. Jeremy Irons is Alfred. Great. Lawrence Fishburne is Perry White. He's fine. He carries along with his character. Who else is in this? Who else is in Batman v Superman? Can't be Batman. Okay, so you guys want to talk about Lex Luthor and Batman. So let's start with Jesse Eisenberg. I thought Jesse Eisenberg did a good job. I thought he was really convincing as Lex Luthor, and a lot of people are going to probably fucking roll their eyes at me, especially they hated this movie. At first, let me just say that, at first, when he was introduced, I didn't buy it. Didn't buy into the swag, didn't buy into the little tics he had. He almost like it looked like he had Tourette's almost. It kind of makes him unhinged, kind of like his character and stuff. I didn't really buy it at first. But there's a certain scene that happens, like I said in the beginning, where I was like, oh shit, this guy's fucking threatening. I'm not going to fuck with him. So I thought for the most part, he did a very good job. And at the very end, he was even more menacing and more asshole-ish in the beginning. I was like, dude, this guy's fucking slimy. So I thought Jesse Eisenberg, for the most part, did a very good job. So let's talk about it. Ben Affleck as Batman. Okay, let me take a drink real fucking fast. Damn, that water tastes like I told you so. Okay, so all those people 2 years ago that were just like, dude, Batman is going to suck. Like, Ben Affleck is terrible. He played fucking Daredevil and he was in Giggly. Really? That's the best you got? He was in fucking Daredevil and Giggly. Okay, so first of all, those movies were like 10 years ago. Don't put an actor on a movie he did 10 years ago because you can change. Look at what Matthew McConaughey did and look what Ben Affleck did with his career. Ben Affleck nailed it in this movie. Not only was he so good in this movie, I'm actually really fascinated to see what he can do in a solo Batman movie. He was definitely the best part about this movie, and all those fucking people 3 years ago that were just like, this is gonna suck. I find it kind of ironic now that the movie is balls to people, but they like Ben Affleck. Fucking internet, man. Anyways, no, he's really good. I loved just the way his character started and kind of just laid the groundwork for it. And we didn't need much character development because it's not his movie. He is sharing it with a bunch of other people. But I thought for the introduction and for all the character moments that we had with Batman, they were great. I love the fact that he's older and he's been through so much hell. And him and Alfred just know that, like, he might cross some lines. He just might. Because he's been through it all. He's seen people die. He's not going to take any more shit. So he's more of a hardcore vigilante now. I thought he portrayed Bruce Wayne really well. He's very suave. It looked like he was a huge presence when he walked into a party. He nailed both aspects. And for me personally, I think he is the best one we've had so far. I loved his portrayal. I do. And I cannot wait to see the solo Batman movie and whatnot. Because they got J.K. Simmons to play Commissioner Gordon for the Justice League movie. So that will be fun. So the acting all around is really good. I didn't really find any weak links at all. Even Michael Shannon's, dead body, he was great. It was an Oscar-worthy performance. Okay. So cinematography. Listen, regardless of what you say about Zack Snyder, at least people agree that he is a visual director. This movie is shot really well. There's a lot of good fight scenes, like I said, that happen in the rain and at night. It's just so grimy and gritty, and it looks like it's ripped right out of a comic book. And I will say this. Now, see, I have this comic book, the Superman Doomsday one, so I have read this, and I have read The Dark Knight Returns, so they kind of borrow from both of those. And I thought they captured some of the action scenes really well. Like, it looked like it was a panel ripped right out. And so, and a little side fact before I continue, this is actually the first movie I've ever seen where I've read the source material before the movie. I know, it's crazy. So, but the cinematography is there. It's dark. It's saturated with color and, just brimming with just so much mood, and it works. It just works so well with this universe. And even all the stuff happening on land or during the day, it's all shot very well. And I don't really care for the look of Doomsday right now, but he was fine the more it kind of wore on me, during the end of the movie and stuff. So there are aspects of it where stuff will stick out because it's too CGI and it's like, oh, that shot looks so fake, or they're in front of a green screen or whatever. But I thought for the most part, the visuals that were there, they were striking. They were visually stunning. I thought it was shot very well. the editing and special effects. Now, I thought the special effects for the most part were pretty good. Now, Doomsday could have had a little bit more work on him, and some of the green screen shots, you could tell it was a green screen, but it didn't bother me that much because I was so engaged into the movie and stuff. The editing is where most people will have a major issue with this movie. Now, a lot of people have a problem with the messiness and the jumbleness of most of the scenes because this movie does go from like first scene, then the second scene, then the third scene, and the fourth scene is connecting back to the first scene and stuff. So it's kind of all over the place in that sense for me personally in the beginning. Now, after, a while, I got into it. I was totally on board and stuff, and I didn't mind it because I thought it was balanced I would say it's balanced really well about 80% of the movie. That first 20% at the beginning, little messy. But for the most part, I thought the action was edited very well. It was just really powerful when it came on screen when they fought, and I thought it was a really well edited movie. I'm not even joking. Like I said, just at the beginning, a little messy, but for the most part, I felt like I was watching a really good comic book adaptation. I had so much fun with this. The visuals were there. The acting was there. Some of the story elements were really, really good. And I can't wait to see solo movies and the Justice League and stuff. Guys, this is not a shit pile like all the critics are saying. Is it a perfect movie? No. And I'm going to have to see this movie again, but I think Man of Steel might be a little bit better for me. And here's another thing I wanted to bring up is that Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder are really promoting this like 3-hour-long R-rated cut. I will bet you guys money that when that version comes out, that 3-hour-long cut will actually make more sense than the version you saw in theaters. I thought the version we saw in theaters for the most part was good, but I think that 3-hour-long cut is going to blow everyone's minds, and it's going to make so much more sense, and people are going to appreciate this movie even more, and it kind of makes me more excited to see the R-rated 3-hour-long cut. But as far as the cut that was presented, I wish there was more in some scenes that, weren't so jumbled or whatever. But you know what? For what we got, I really enjoyed myself. It was entertaining. I think this is a really good comic book movie with some flaws that I didn't really care for. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more it's kind of growing on me. I definitely want to see it again, and I will definitely get the R-rated 3-hour-long cut, which I will bet, just like Ben Affleck, people will say, that 3-hour-long cut was so much better, and I will appreciate this movie so much more. So I'm going to give Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice a solid score of a B. So what did you guys think of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice? Of course, you've heard of it. So comment in the place right up in my face and let me know what you thought. Do you disagree with me on the story or the way it's portrayed and stuff? I thought the story was really well handled. I thought there was a lot of good character moments. I thought it tied in very well. Just at the very beginning, a little rough. But for the most part, I thought it was a pretty solid and a pretty good comic book movie. And I can't wait to see it again and the extended cut. So let me know what you thought down below. All right, so let's get into the box office results for the weekend. Okay, let's pull up these numbers. You guys already know what is number one, but you don't know the number yet. All right, number 5 is the OxyClean detergent series Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. 4 and 5 are actually tied. Okay, so it made 9.5 million, and right now its budget's unlisted. Domestically, which is the U.S. and Canada, it's got 46 million, and worldwide it's got 118. And you guys know the rule: you got to double the budget to break even. 118. That's not really good. Number 4, Miracles from Heaven, which also made 9.5 million. Its budget is 13 million, and domestically made 34, worldwide 34. It doubled its money. It made profit. All right, number 3 is the other new release that came out this week, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. Okay, with 18 million. Holy crap, that's actually really good for that movie. And then worldwide, it's got 26 million. Its budget is unknown, so I don't know how much or how well it's doing right now. Zootopia is at number 2 with 23 more million. This movie is a juggernaut, man. 240 million domestically and almost 700 worldwide. It's 696. That's so incredible. If you guys have not seen Zootopia, it is definitely in my top 10 right now for the year so far. Please go check that out. It's a really good movie that reflects society very well with animals and politics and just race and stuff. Like, it's just great. And then number one, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. How much did it make? $170 million. That's pretty respectable for this movie. Domestically, 170. Worldwide, 424. I think it's the highest grossing comic book movie on a weekend of all time, because this movie was a day and date release for most countries around the world. So that's why it's so high. Because usually when they release these movies, they release it like a week before overseas or like a month after overseas than us and whatnot. So the numbers are a little bit more slower rolling in. But it made 424 worldwide opening weekend. That's pretty damn good. Here's the problem. Its budget is $250 million, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, so it's going to make $500 million, $500 million to break even. No. With all the marketing that Warner Brothers did, they are estimating that they need to at least make $1 billion to break even. Okay, it's made almost half of that in the first weekend. I think it's going to do it. I think it'll do pretty well, because here's the deal. Besides The Jungle Book coming out in 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, I forgot. It's the only competition for a month until Civil War comes out. So I think for a month, I think it's got it. I think it can definitely hit that mark. We'll go much beyond $1 billion. I don't know, man. I don't think they're going to get that much profit off of it, to be honest. So I don't know. We'll see as the weeks progress. But 424 opening worldwide, that's pretty damn good considering all the reviews and stuff. So that is it for the box office results, guys. And that will do it for this week's show of Real Me and Colin Movie Podcast. I'm Chase Lee. And hey, listen, if you're watching on YouTube and you want an audio-only version of this podcast, link in the description below. If you're watching or listening on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes, and you want a video version of the podcast, link will be in the description below. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys for listening, tuning in for my thoughts on Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and of course the rest of the show. Hopefully you guys will come back next week for episode 124. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do it on, because there's really nothing coming out next week. I think what I might do it on, since it's opening limited release, I think I might have a review of Everybody Wants Some and just my overall thoughts on Richard Linklater and some movies to suggest. So I'll probably do that for you guys. So that'll probably be next week's show, faux show. But as far as this week's episode goes, I want to thank you guys for listening. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @RealChaseLee right here at the bottom. YouTube, just click that subscribe button and get podcast every single week, shows, movie reviews, all that jazz. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So tune in next week for episode 124, where I'll probably go over Everybody Wants Some and Richard Linklater in general. But for this episode, let me know all that stuff and thoughts down below. This has been another episode of Real Me and Colin, a movie podcast. I'm Chase Lee, and hey, listen, if you listen to this entire movie podcast and you were not a movie fan, well, hopefully I convinced you to be one. The intro and outro music is done by my friends band Fervent Roze. Check them out. Link in the description below. They are blowing up in Dallas. See you guys next week. You guys are fucking awesome. Batman v Superman, holy shit, people are divided. War has begun in the streets. Blood is being shed. But I'm on the side of good. More good than bad. So I'll see you guys next week. See you later. Do you bleed? I want to be Batman one day. That's my goal. All right, see you guys later.